Life was done, and that was at 20, 21 years old. And I know there's millions and millions of people out there that don't think there's a way out, and when I compete, if somehow they hear a little bit of my story, and it gives them some inspiration to, make the next right decision, whether it's to not use or it doesn't matter. I just, I fight, and I fight for recovery.
How close to getting submitted were you?
Oh, and the guillotine?
Yeah.
Not close. It wasn't bad at all. It was just, it was tight, but he was kind of squished up against the cage, and my chin was tucked before he pulled. I let him pull, and I dropped because I knew it wasn't on. But I kind of figured I'd pop my head out and try and pass, but...
Despite that, he still had a pretty good first round, Alexander did. What was going through your mind between the first and second?
Between the first and second, well, towards the end of the first round, I was starting to time. He was sitting, and I was going to try and hit him before he threw the kick or before he threw the straight left. But that little, I needed to hit him right before he moved. I was trying to figure out how to counter that straight left and counter that kick, or block it and come back. And so I started to towards the end of the round. And so coming into the second round, I needed to feint and try and close that distance, or counter by making him miss and then come in with a combination, try and finish and get him to the ground. But so I started figuring him out.
From a physical standpoint, Gord, how many injuries were you really dealing with, and what was the journey like for you to come back from the injuries that you did have?
Well, I had the scapholunate ligament was detached, so like the ACL of my wrist. And so after the fight was over in December 14th, 2013, I got home and I couldn't, I have a younger son who was 4 or 3 at the time, and I couldn't pick him up because my wrist would just tunk, 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 and I couldn't pour a cup of coffee. And so I called Dr. Davidson, and I went and they did this PRP, and they thought that would help it. So I had to cast, and my other wrist was bothering me, and I took the 4 months and started the therapy, and this little thing started swelling up. And so I called Dr. Davidson again, and he got me into a hand specialist. So almost 5 months passed before I went and saw a hand specialist, and he went in after 5 minutes. He said, your scapholunate ligament's attached, you got to get it fixed. You need to go into surgery. Oh, by the way, it's going to be a year before you can get back in there and use it and grab it. And I just was devastated. Like, I just wasted 6 months. Because at a year, I would have been fighting, or training for a fight. And so now it was like, well, 15, 16 months from now, you'll be training. And 15, 16 months from then is when I started my first, I did a 6-week camp, like I was training for a fight, just to see if I had it in here and to see if my body had it. And that's what I did.
How implemental were your teammates and coaches in really rallying behind you and encouraging you to come back?
Oh man, it made all the difference in the world. My very first real big fight was against Jeremy Horn, just a few fights after he fought Chuck Liddell for the title. And I fought him my 5th or 6th pro fight in Utah, and my first real coaching experience was with Rob Hanley. He's from Absolute MMA in Utah. And I reunited with him again, and he's my main training camp in Utah now. And all of my teammates, I had 2 or 3 teammates move back, and they've just showed up day in and day out. Steve Seiler and Ramsey Nijum, Rock Jardine, and all these guys, just came out of the woodwork. Hey man, what do you need? What do you need? And man, they just pushed me. I found out 14 weeks ago that I was fighting, and I started training that night. So,
can you talk about, being away from 2 years is different when you get in the octagon, and what were your expectations about how you would physically feel? And did you feel like you performed to your peak expectations?
I tried not to have any expectations. I've had a year off before, and I did. I would sit and I'd overthink, oh, well, when I go out there, how am I going to feel, and what am I going to think? And that stuff's weird. Thank God I'm half blind. Because I got up there today and I saw Joe Rogan, and I was just looking at Joe Rogan. He was talking, and I was thinking, if I was watching the fight, what would Joe Rogan be? And I'm like, what the hell are you doing, man? Okay, start moving around, And so I don't know. I just you think of all these things that go on, especially the night. I didn't sleep at all last night, and I was just going through the fight and what I've done and what's happened and this and that, and you go through so many emotions as a fighter, a UFC fighter, and as a fighter anywhere. And man, I tried not to have any expectations, and I showed up and I tried to practice what we trained over the last 14 weeks and what I've learned over my career over the last 24, 25 fights. And I tried to enjoy it. It's my birthday today, you know, and 31 years old, and when I look in the mirror, I'm proud of what I've become today.
Feel good to get punched in the face live again?
It did, man. I got hit a
I
couple
know it's been a
times
long
when I
time.
was
We've been talking about this for a long time.
No.
Feel nice
Spencer's
to
doing
finally
my
get...
book. Spencer's doing my book. This guy knows me probably as well as anybody in the world. I mean, everything. My autobiography.
You know, you joke about not being able to see Joe or hear Joe, but do you see Chuck? Because it's hard to miss him sometimes.
Oh, yeah. He showed up. I love Chuck. He's just something else. But, man, I could hear him. And when I was coming back to my corner, I could see him over there doing this. And he's always like that. He's so intense. He's such a gentle guy, too. But, man, you're getting, man, he just pumps you up.
Right.
And I could see him over there just, oh, you got to do this. When I was elbowing the guy, harder, go harder. I'm just like, harder. So awesome.